I'm part of two ministries. Earlier today, it was Christian Equippers International, and I've been with them. I'll start my 25th year this June as an equipping evangelist, traveling throughout the world, equipping the church in evangelism. And then I'm part of another ministry I was invited to be part of back in 2014 called Design Group International. And we courted for about a year, and the CEO and myself, and I thought it was a God thing, and I joined on board as a senior consultant for church growth. I've been working with churches for church growth for a number of years, but the Lord gave me clarity, and again, in a very military way that I understand, and he said that Design Group International will take you from regular Army to special ops. And I've learned so much being with these fellows. So we offer peer mentoring, and that's where I work with like 3 pastors at a time on the phone, 1 hour a month phone call for 8 weeks or 8 sessions, 8 months. And then I work under something called pure mentoring, where I work with a church for an entire year to bring forth church growth. And it's easy today with Fuse meetings and Skype, and there's all kinds of things. I mean, we can hold entire leadership meetings with churches, and I don't even have to be at the meeting. I can just be on a screen somewhere. But I just wanted to talk about some church growth today. Now, everyone here is from Destiny except for 1 or 2 people. Who is not from Destiny? Okay, you guys are with, what church do you go to?
Destiny or not from Destiny? We'll say yes. Okay, apparently I'm from Destiny.
Okay.
David's an associate minister of ours, but he's got his own church called Untitled Chapter.
Oh, okay. Hello, Pastor Dave. Nice to meet you. And anyone else not from Destiny here? Okay.
I go to the South Evangelique de Châteauguay, the one you went to this morning.
Oh, okay, great. And actually, that was a wonderful experience. Were you there this morning? How come I didn't see you? Did we didn't?
In the back.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see you. We didn't chat at all. No, okay. Yeah, that was a fun time we had this morning. Yeah. So I just want to talk about some principles of church growth. I'd like to just kind of connect with, since it's 99.9% Destiny here, and those of you that aren't with Destiny kind of pick up some things here. All right. Pastor David, I noticed that probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe 80% of your chairs are filled.
Yeah. It's anywhere from 68%.
Okay, because there's an 85 percentile in North America that once you get to that point, you've reached a ceiling and things need to be adjusted. So it's really crazy. For those of us that have been to underdeveloped nations, we see thousands of church people packed in. But here in North America, whether in Canada or the States, once we get to 85%, it shows that we'll actually start losing people again. So if you have 100 chairs, you have 85 people, you're actually going to start losing people. And then you'll start coming up, you'll bump your heads again, and you'll start dropping again. Bump your heads and then start dropping again. And unfortunately, it can be a vicious cycle that you're not going anywhere, and there's a lot of wasted time. All right, I have a friend of mine in Jersey, and he's experiencing that right now. So he either has to go to a second service, okay, or do a Saturday night and a Sunday morning or something alternative to get something going, or start a plant somewhere else within the city. But it's really important. I like the concept that you're doing with your music right now, and I want to chat with you. I think that's a real win-win situation. I've been thinking about how you shared that with me, and maybe you can share it with your friend at another time, and maybe with Pastor John. He's the senior pastor at Shadowgate, is he?
No, it's a four-member team now.
Okay, so there's no set man that's the head, right?
Seems not.
Okay, all right, well, whatever. But yeah, but it was a good experience here today, too. So, most people determine whether they're going to come back to a church. Now, we're talking about first-time guests. Most first-time guests determine whether they're going to come back to a church within the first 15 minutes of the service. Yeah. So it's not necessarily the praise and worship. It's not the message, how the pastor preached, but a lot of it has to do with the greeting and what they see, what they sense, what they perceive when they come through the front door. You know, when you sell a house, I used to sell houses many years ago on a part-time basis. And I used to win awards. I won 2 of the 3 office awards on a part-time basis. And the full-timers hated me because I was doing it all in part-time, winning 66% of the awards in the office. And the 2 things that I concentrated on was listings, people that were going to sell their home, and the amount of listings that got sold. And so if I had a family that was going to sell their home, I said, remember, people buy the sizzle and not the steak necessarily. All right? And I said, the one thing we want to make sure, what do people see when they come in to your home? And likewise, what do people see when they come into our home here? What do they see? And there are many different aspects. I shared it with Pastor Dave. Unfortunately, Pastor, it didn't work out, but we can still go over this on the phone together. I have something that I received from one of my mentors called a guest ministries profile. And what I do, I come in undercover into a church. And it's really a lot of fun. And there was a large church out in Ohio. They were about 1,200 people, and they couldn't get beyond 1,200. They, tough problem, right? I really feel bad for them, right? And they were up to 1,200, and they just couldn't get past it. And they had literally a grocery store, and they turned it into a church. So this was the grocery store here. The middle was the sanctuary, and around the edges were all the classrooms and everything. All right? And I had been in those before. There was a pastor down in Virginia. He used to design casinos out in Las Vegas, and got saved. He took a gamble, got saved, and the returns were good. And he became a pastor, and he built a sanctuary like that. So I come up to this church undercover. I wasn't even speaking in the church. And usually I like to dress like a bum when I come into a church. Because if I dress nicely, unfortunately, I get treated better than if I just came in with a pair of sweatpants and a hoodie. Right? God doesn't show partiality, but unfortunately, lots of times the church does. All right? So I come into this church at 1,200 people, and I came in the front door, and they had a big entrance, and there was a couple guys there, and they said, hey, welcome to so-and-so church. And I said, thank you very much. And I did this on purpose. I had just left the hotel. Are you finished with that? And I had a cardboard cup from a cup of tea or coffee. And I purposefully brought it in. everything is a test. My wife knows that when we go out and I say things, there's always a reason for my madness. There's always a reason for what I do or say. Because before she used to think, oh, what are you doing? And then she would see it afterwards. So I come in with this empty coffee cup, cardboard coffee cup. The greeter greets me at the door. I'm the honored guest, okay? And he said, hey, good morning, brother. He said, welcome to so-and-so church. And I shake his hand. I said, wow, thanks a lot. Do you know where I can get rid of this cup? And this is what he did. Now, when you came in, the foyer was about 50 yards long. And it had tables, and it had different ministries set up. I mean, this is a big program they got running. And he said, you know what? He said, and he's got his arm around me. He says, you know what? He said, if you go straight through down there, okay, and you just kind of keep going to the end, and you bear right, and you head toward the Blue Hen Cafe, that was the name of it. He said, you go by the Blue Hen Cafe, and you'll see a trash can right there. He failed miserably. Do you have any idea what I can do with this cup? Yeah, here, let me get that for you. If there's anything else I can do for you, I'm here for you. Anything at all. All right? You know, we want your experience at the Destiny Christian Center to be a good experience. We know that you're new here. We recognize that, you didn't have to come and worship with us this morning, but we appreciate you a lot being here. Let me take that for you. I don't want you to be bothered with that. So they failed miserably. Thank you. So there's about 4 or 5 entrances going into the sanctuary. It's like a big auditorium, okay? And within the entrance, and it's a wide entrance. Each entrance is about from the wall to here. And there's a person standing at the end, the side of the entrance as people are coming in, and she or he had bulletins. And they're handing them out. And so I chose not to look at this person. I wanted to see how they would handle this situation. So I decided, so they're over there, and I'm not looking. And I just kind of, walk in and just kind of mosey in. And she let me walk in without giving me a bulletin, without greeting me. We're not doing good here either. So I walk back out. I go in another entranceway. Same thing happened. I walked out. I went back in another entranceway. And I'm walking out, and I'm walking in. And again, the person's like where that speaker is, and I'm walking in. And all of a sudden, I hear a voice say, well, good morning, sir. And she grabbed my attention, and I looked at her. And she said, good morning, with a big smile. And she said, welcome to Victory Center. May I hand you a bulletin? And I said, thank you very much. And I went in, and I grabbed the seat. And I checked out things like volume of the music, length of the service, the sermon, you're criticizing all these things. And there's a part in the service where the pastor says, you know what, church, can we get up this morning? Let's get up. Let's show everybody a real victory. Let's show them some love from Victory or something like that. And if you don't know someone this morning, make sure you go to that person. So I'm sitting there. Now, I could have easily made eye contact with someone who I didn't know. Like, let's say I was sitting there, I didn't know anybody, and if I made eye contact with you or Mike or you guys, you probably would have came over and said, hey, my name is Wolfgang, and, maybe introduced yourself, you know what I mean? But I decided to sit there like this. like a recluse, like a very introverted person. Not one person came over to greet me. Okay? And I started looking around and nothing. So at the end of service, they had what we call backdoor greeters. And the backdoor greeters, I walked out the sanctuary door. And again, now, say the back doors are all here. Okay, and the parking lot's down that end. So I walk out over here, totally ignored. Oh, they said at the end of service, if you want prayer, come into our prayer room. I went in there, nobody was there. The lights were off. They were not prepared at all. I was in there for 10 minutes by myself. Okay? I went out the back door then. The back door greeter was there. He allowed me to walk back. He never greeted me. He never thanked me. He never wished me to have a great week. And I'm walking back along the back, and that one greeter that purposed in her heart to catch my attention, we exchanged names, okay? And so I'm walking, and there's tons of people like you're on a city street. And all of a sudden I hear this, hey, Craig, it's Joan. She said, Craig, thanks for coming. Have a great week. And it was nice. I walk out. Oh, this was the best. The worst. But like the memory, right? You know? So there's the front door of walking out of the sanctuary. And there's a guy who's supposed to, he's the last contact. And he's standing there like this. So I decide I'm not going to say anything. Normally I always say hello to people, but I want to see how he's handling his ministry. So I go by and he goes like that. And I went, and I walked out thinking, oh man, you got to be kidding me. I stopped at the Blue Hen Cafe while I was there. It was very nice. I purchased a can of, not good for me, I know, Diet Pepsi, and it didn't taste right. It had expired 6 months before, all right? And, there's just so many things here. Outside, there was cracks in the pavement. Some of the building needed painting. The lawn wasn't cared for. It was one thing after another. But this, you ready for this? We're talking about a church of 1,200 people. We got hundreds of kids. I walked right into the Sunday school classrooms and nobody stopped me. Well, I found out later that supposedly I was being watched. Mike, I was through the whole place. I went through and a lot of the guys in the church were packing heat. They carry guns. That is normal in churches in America today.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I share with David, when I came through the airport and I see they've got officers there with bulletproof vests to keep the order, and none of them are packing heat. I said to the guy today, I said, where's your Glock? Where's your 9mm? I said, how are you supposed to take care of business if there's a problem? And he said, I know, it's a joke, isn't it? I mean, it's horrible. But in America, a lot of pastors who I know, they carry while they're preaching. Oh, yes, you can't see it. There was a small church in Indiana. They're having a prayer meeting. Guy came in, midweek prayer meeting, shot and killed 12 people. And so this church had 3 or 4 guys, off-duty policemen, etc., that were all carrying guns.
What do you think of that?
I think it's great. In this day and hour, absolutely. You got to protect your fellowship. You know, like in Texas, if you go to a restaurant and a crazy guy comes in, you don't have much to worry about because everybody is packing heat there. But in New Jersey, where you can't defend yourself, you got to scram under a table or something. You know, it's horrible. But anyway, so I went through this church. I got into Sunday school classrooms. I didn't like that at all. The way that I was able, I walked right by security. I scoffed right by him when he wasn't looking. He turned one way, I jumped right into the classrooms. Because I want to see how good they're doing their job. You know, and then I reported to the pastor. I mean, I wrote a pastor a report that took me close to 10 hours to put together. I mean, it's a big deal, these reports. And, but there was, you know, a lot of good things, a lot of challenging things, but there's always places to improve. And every situation is different. And we have a very unique situation here at Destiny. You know, I recognize it's not our property. There's just so much that we can do in every property. And maybe, Pastor, when I'm bringing up some of these things, maybe you can see how appropriate they are at your church. You can think of shadow gay and things like that. But first-time impressions are important. We want to touch a first-time guest, ideally 7 times. Now, you know, there's this whole thing, a seeker-sensitive church. And lots of times we think because they're seeker-sensitive, many times these churches compromise the gospel and compromise because they don't want to offend people. I think the key is to be seeker-sensitive without compromising the gospel, to be the best host that we can be. All right? You know, if someone stays at your home, you make sure their dietary needs are taken care of. There's clean sheets on the beds. Toiletries are set out for them. Okay, things like that, all right? And the same aspect has to be for our first-time guests when they come to this house. I went into the men's room at that church. Actually, I went into the ladies' room also, but only after service, and someone checked to make sure that nobody was in there, you know. But I checked everything. Soap dispensers, are they empty? Toilet paper, you know, are the toilets clean, et cetera, et cetera. Everything is an impression. Everything, okay? Where they served coffee, the person was supposed to be handing out free coffee. The place was a mess. People are not very considerate when they come to a place and have free coffee. They leave empty sugar things around. There's milk spilled. And unfortunately, because people are like that, we need to have people cleaning up behind them immediately. All right? And so anyway, we need to make everything as sharp. Men's room, ladies' room, how clean is it? You know, I can take my wife out to a nice restaurant, but if that ladies' room is not at an A game level, we will not be back. I don't care how good the food is. And actually, on restaurant surveys, cleanliness ranks higher than the taste of food. I don't know if you knew that or not. Yeah. Yeah, the number one thing that people look for in the restaurants is not the food, but the restrooms. Is that interesting? Yeah. Very important. Because, and another thing, whatever you see out front of a restaurant, which is visible, it's always 10 times worse behind closed doors. So you start thinking about the cleanliness and all. So people get first impressions, going back to selling that house. If they have chip paint along the the step coming into the home that needs to be all finished off, okay? If there is, I don't know, pieces of wood that has been rotted out, it needs to be all cleaned up. If the paint is peeling off, it needs to be all redone. You know, it is always about the experience. And when we combine that with a tremendous service, well, then we've got an A-game thing going. All right? There was a big church down in South Jersey I've been ministering in for probably 20 years. And at the top of their building, every 20 feet, there's like this black stain this big kind of jumping down off the roof. And one of my mentors from Christian Equippers was in town, and we pulled in the parking lot, and he looked up and he said, "What in the world is that?" And he looked at me and he said, "Craig, have you talked to the pastor about this?" And I said, "No, I haven't." And he looked at me like I really failed him as a student. It's like he said, "Brother, what do you mean? This is your job." You know, it all ties in. Like, what kind of a leadership leaves that up there? You know, splotches of gum all over the sidewalk, flower beds filled with weeds, overflowing, coming out. What kind of a leadership team leaves things like that? It's all part of the picture concerning church growth. It really is. When churches stay at a certain level, there's reasons. Many of them can be overcome if we take the right initiative to correct them. All right? And I know we're in a very precarious situation here. Pastor Dave, I don't know if these guys will let you make corrections or not. You know what I mean? I don't know if they would let somebody paint the front steps once the weather gets nice and, you know, clean it up and get a fresh coat of paint on there and, you know, maybe put out like a red 3-foot wide carpet just to, you know, tune it up, okay? Let's talk about front door greeters. I am of the mindset that front door greeters should be outside of the church in all inclement and nice weather. At our church in South Jersey, which grew tremendously, we did a Thanksgiving dinner every year. And we fed the entire town would come, whoever wanted to come. Well, they fed hundreds and hundreds of people every year. They mixed stuffing in wheelbarrows, all right? But it was one of the things that we did at our church, and we held it at the high school cafeteria. And it started at 2 o'clock, and till 6 o'clock we served people. And the pastor, the senior pastor, stood at the front door and he held the door open for everyone that came through. No matter how cold it was, if it was rainy, he'd have an umbrella, but constantly just loving on people. It's that those first touches, again, first time guests decide whether to come back in the first 15 minutes. So how we greet them, it's important. There was a church out in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I'm not saying you do these things, but it just gives some thought of where we want to go. There's a church in Cincinnati, Ohio, that the pastor realized that for people just coming to the church, it's a pretty scary thing maybe entering into his church. We know that, I forget if it's 2-3 million people in the U.S. have dropped out of the local church today because their needs are not being fulfilled. And he wanted to overcome any fear. So when a first-time guest, if he didn't recognize a car, he would go out to them in the parking lot and say, "Hey, I'm Pastor Jim. Thanks for coming. I'll see you inside. We're going to have a fun time today." And he'd go back in. And I'm not saying you do those things, but find your niche. Find what works for you. Okay? So anyway, let's get back to front door greeters. So I go to this church on a Sunday morning. There's a young girl about 15 years of age standing outside the front door, and she has bulletins. And again, I am not going to help her in her ministry. All right? I want to see how she does. Well, I come up. She's standing there. She puts a big smile on her face. She hands me a bulletin. And she says, "Welcome to our church. Good morning." And I thought, good job, you know. Now, lots of times I will go to a church. I get there early. You know, let's say I was coming here. Church started at 10 o'clock in the morning. So I pull up at 9:35-ish, 9:40-ish. The front door greeters are at the front door. They're not there to open up the door. Why? Because they're off to the side doing what I call the front door greeter click. And they're standing on the side talking. And so I'll come in, and again, that sarcastic part of me, you know, like today when I said, "Oh, you know, what if Jesus is telling the truth? You know, what do you know?" Of course, we know he's telling the truth. So I'll go in, and these two guys will be talking. They're supposed to be greeting me, right? And this is what I'll say to them. I'll say, hey guys, listen, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I didn't mean to interrupt you. You know what I mean? I'm just nailing them the whole time. I'm sorry, guys. Didn't mean to interrupt you. That's not, I go into a store. Two salespeople. I'm sorry. Ladies, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Oh, no, that's fine. Oh, no, I didn't mean to interrupt your conversation. I'm sorry. So anyway, I say, "Guys, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Yeah, I'm looking for Pastor Hibbert. Could you tell me where he's at?" "Oh, yeah, just go down the hall. You know, you'll find him. It's the third door on the left." "Oh, okay, guys. Okay, again, my apologies. I didn't mean to interrupt you." And I'm just driving it home, you know, because it really irks me, you know. And so front door greeters are important. They need to be there. They need to make people feel welcomed and loved. Lots of times with smaller congregations, let's not go with smaller congregations, but good-sized congregations, they will put some of the youth out there to do it. And it's a good thing. It looks good. But if you are a church of like 20 people and you put a little boy, 8 years old at the front door, it looks like we're just looking for any warm body to get out there. It's like, man, who's going to hand out the bulletin? Johnny, put that in your truck. Here, come here. Stand at the front door and hand these. You know, it totally backlashes on you. If you're a church of substance, and you guys could work that here, it will be fine to have a couple youth standing at the front door and greeting people. And they need to know how to do it, that you smile, that you say hello, that you welcome people to the church. Because then what it's showing that our young people of our church, they're being trained up in the way they should go. It's a good thing. They're involved. They're not like most young kids today. "Hey, I'm coming." You know, man, in the States, it is horrible. All they do is give the kids video games and texting on their cell phones. So it's nice to see the younger people participating in the normal operations of the church. So I like it when the people are outside the front door. It is just adding another touch of how much we care. The worst thing in the world is you go up to a church and what you see are doors staring at you. There is nothing worse. You know, it's like, honestly, maybe those two doors right there. Let's say they're doors coming into our sanctuary, from the outside. I mean, that is not inviting looking at all. Now, we're outside and we're getting ready to go in. It's scary. What's going on in there? All we see is a wall and two doors. You know, but if you have someone outside, even in cold, inclement weather, The worse weather, the better the effect it takes. Does that make sense? Because it's easy to do it on a sunny day, but in bad weather, and you're standing out there, man, you got your frozen smile, and right? And but man, it's like people pull up, and the number one reason why people come back to a church is because they feel loved and accepted. Number one reason. So can you imagine you have that reputation within your town, and people come up. It's a rainy, cold February morning, and there's a guy standing out there. He's got a trench coat on, and he's got an umbrella. All right, no bulletins at this point because they're going to get ruined. All right. But he's there to serve, to open the door. But when you're coming towards him, what are you thinking? Wow, you talk about an A game. This is something I'd like to be part of because it's so much above the rest that's offered out there in the world today. It is such an A game. I told you in real estate, one of the awards I won is I had more listings than anybody else. And I would wait for the worst day of the year on a Saturday. And I would go to like these for sale by owners, okay? And it'll be rainy, it'll be storming. And the worse, the better. And I'm knocking on the door, and the people must be thinking, wow, who will be out in this weather? And they'd answer the door, and they open the door, and it's like, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm Craig Fasler. Yeah, I'm with Weichert Realtors. And I heard you wanted to sell your house, and I just wanted to come by and introduce myself. And then they say those magic words. Amen. Why don't you come in? Well, if you insist, right? And so I get in, and now I look for something, to compliment them on. Oh, wow, I see your husband's an electrical engineer. He put those speakers together, did he? Oh, no. We just bought those at Walmart, oh, I see. So we're going through the kitchen. Oh, well, okay, so I see you have the home's 20 years old? Yes, Craig, it is. These are new appliances, I see. Well, no, they're not. They're actually the originals. Wow, you keep those so nice. Wow, they look brand new. Well, I just do my best. So, but anyway, so the greeter is really important. Having him at the front door, making people feel loved and accepted. Within the congregation, we can have a couple other people called roaming greeters. These are not Roman greeters with swords and stuff, okay? This is roaming, I-N-G, roaming greeters, okay? And they just go up to people who they don't know. And like here, we could have 3 or 4 roaming greeters. Probably, maybe a couple. One husband, one wife. And, of course, the girls go up to the girls. The guys go up to the guys. And, you just go up to people. And there's a proper way of doing this. It's really important, or you can wind up with mud on your face. So I go up to a guy and I say, hey, my name's Craig, welcome to Destiny. And he says, oh, yeah, this is my 4th Sunday here. I just blew it. So the correct way to go up to somebody is, hi, my name's Craig. I don't think we ever met. And he introduces himself, and I say, wow, thanks for coming out today, where do you live? How'd you get here? Blah, blah, blah. We just kind of chat. All right? So we have the greeter at the front door. We have our roaming greeters, right? We have our backdoor greeters, greeting people on the way out, thanking them for coming. So greeters are really important to have in a church service, okay? Any thoughts or questions on that? Yes, no, you're just the itch, okay? All right, great. All right, it's important the way that we greet our first-time guests. We want them to feel warmed, loved, accepted. You know, we've been praying for guests to come. We've been fasting. Finally, we get a first-time guest to come to our church. And it's like, okay, listen, let's welcome our first-time, here it is. Let's welcome our first-time visitors. Okay, let's move on to more important things. The Ladies Knitting Club will be meeting on Thursday nights from 7 to 9 o'clock. And the thing that we've been praying and fasting for, we just totally scoffed right over it. First of all, they are not referred to as visitors. First-time visitors. Visitors go to visitor centers to get the information they need, and then they leave. These are our first-time guests, our honored guest. Okay? Be very careful if you have people raising their hands. Not necessarily a good thing. I was at a church one time, and I was up in New York State, and I'll never forget it. The person says, the pastor says, yeah, listen, can we have all of our first-time guests raise their hands? And a guy raised his hand, so like you raise your hand, okay? All right, so he comes over and he goes, well, brother, what side of the mountain you from? And he stands up and he shoves the microphone under his face. Now he's got 300 people staring at him. He may have beaten his wife last night in a drunken stupor, and he wants to get right with God. And now he's been totally humiliated. It's so bad. I remember one time I was at church saying, can we have all our first-time guests stand up? I stand up, and this lady, about 85 years old, she turns around and she goes, and I'm like looking at her, and she's like, you know, just like staring at you. And it's like, ooh, boy, you know, I do something wrong. You know, I was at another church, and I was going to speak there, and I knew I had about 10 minutes before I got called. They're still in praise and worship. So I said to one of the brothers in the back, I said, where's the men's room? He says, downstairs. Okay, right downstairs. You can't miss it. I'm like, awesome. So I go down there. Well, there's 3 blank doors. Is it behind door number 1, door number 2, or door number 3? The first door I opened up was a broom closet. The second door I go in, and it was the men's room, okay? I went in, and I went to the bathroom, and I flushed the toilet. Now the toilet wouldn't stop running. And I'm thinking, oh man, if this thing overflows, it's going to be a problem. I'll never forget, I had this gray suit on, and it just kept running and running and running, and I'm picturing this thing just overflowing. So I hear everybody stop, the floor's still vibrating, and I thought, you know what, I got to take care of this. I rip off my jacket, roll up my sleeves, take off the top of the toilet tank, reach down there. I get the rubber thing, and I got to repair it so it's working properly. I got a white shirt on and a light gray suit, literally, and I got all this black goop all over my hands. I have no idea what it is. And so I get the porcelain toilet lid, I put it back on, I go and wash my hands. Of course there's no hot water. Oh no, we can't have hot water. No. And the soap dispenser, oh yeah, that's empty. Oh, okay. And then I go to dry my hands, there's no paper towels. Of course not. And you know, it's like, man. It's like, what are we thinking besides nothing? Honestly. That's all true stories. I mean, it's actually happened. And now now I'm drying my hands off on the back of my shirt, you know? It's like the Holy Ghost moved. I'm just drenched with sweat. And I had to remember, do not take off your jacket. Your shirt's all wet. It was just, and it is a reflection upon the leadership and the leadership team. It always does. Do we start our service on time? A church I went to when I first got started with Pastor Ed Mannering, God bless him, our service was to start at 10. But because people didn't come till 10:15, he moved the service to 10:15. And then, since now it started 10:15, he started the service at 10:30.
Sounds like destiny.
And so anyway, one of the elders, a buddy of mine, said to him, he said, Ed, if we keep doing this, we're going to be starting service by 1 o'clock in the afternoon, where we start at 10 in the morning. But he figured, well, if I move at 15, then they'll all be there on time. And I tell leadership, you know what? You start at 10, nobody's there, you kick it off. Because that's discipline, that's organizational skills, you're a man of your word. You get that? It's all really important. Okay? All really important. Yeah. All those things. Yeah. And today, most churches' services are about an hour and a half throughout the nation. They've done charts. What are most? They took a survey, trying to think of who it was. He sent out tens of thousands of people. They interviewed tens of thousands of people who had been in their church for 2 years or less. And they looked at some things, what they were looking for in a church. Okay? It was a church that had direction, it had clarity, it had contemporary music. All right? A church that was prompt, started on time. All right? Messages were relevant to today's issues. Pastor, we talked about that last night. We were referring to a church that none of their messages are relevant to the times in which we're living in. And they were created hundreds of years ago, and people won't stay for that. So we need to have relevant messages that hit today people right where they're living, okay? And I know a lot of churches, they'll do seminars on how to have a stress-free life, how to live stress-free. And I'll tell you what, you can get first-time guests through that. You can get all kinds of people. Marriage seminars. I heard, we were in the car, or you told me last night, 60% of marriages in Quebec end in divorce. And he shared with me the whole thing about the last name. Women keep their last names, and man, it's just unbelievable. So all those things are helpful for today with people. They say that today people's attention span is less than what it's ever been. Okay? So we're seeing messages shorten up. Actually, what I've been trying to do is minister between 40 minutes max. I know I went over today, but that's all I'm trying to do because people don't comprehend it anyway. I went to a church, I was down at the Jersey Shore, and I was there as just a guest, and I checked it out. The minister ministered for about 25 minutes. He had 3 or 4 bullet points that hit home, that were relevant, that I could take with me, apply to my everyday life, which was also good. they also had something, and again, none of these are have-tos, they're just things to consider. They had something where the pastor was the backdoor greeter. Years ago, when I grew up, the pastor stood at the back door and greeted everyone who left. Now, of course, things are different because now today we have hospitality rooms and things like that, but we can always greet people from the sanctuary out into where the hospitality area may be. And but you know, the backdoor greeter was really important for me. I was a kid who grew up without my dad, and I would go to the back of the church, and I remember the pastor would make a fuss over me. And you know, I saw Pastor David do that this afternoon over one of the young people. And they were giggling and just loving it, you know. And that's how we win our young people. Let them know that, you know, we're real. The leadership's real and all, and that we're fun. But man, you know, my pastor, I mean, I'd be nervous, and it would be the time for my mom and I to say goodbye and walk out to church, you know, and the line's going slow. And he'd say, "Hey, Craig," and he'd start, you know, tickling my belly and brushing my hair all around. And I'll tell you what, that was my favorite part of the service. So I watched this pastor. He had a much older congregation, and he met them as they walked out the door. And I'll tell you what, I mean, we're talking a lot of people in their 80s. And so this little older lady walks by. He goes, "Margaret, you look stunning. Is that a new dress you have on?" And she's like, "Oh, Pastor, I'm surprised you even noticed." You know, and she's just tickled pink. Somebody cared for her. Somebody's loving on her, you know. Another old lady comes out in her 80s. She's like, "Oh, Millie, I really like that new hairdo you got." She says, "You like it, Pastor? I thought it was a little edgy, but I thought I'd try it. You know, I'm glad you like it." You know, but just making people laugh, you know. Humor in the pulpit is a great thing. Humor in the pulpit. I was at this, was it Father's Day, maybe? And they gave awards out to different fathers. That was it. And so, all right, which father who had this? And the guy would raise his hand. He won the award. So the last award was, who has the most children and grandchildren combined? Anyway, it came down to two guys. And so maybe they started at, 25, because none of them had 26. So the pastor's going 25, and both these guys are raising their hand, and 24, and they're both raising their hand. And this thing is becoming a marathon. And the whole church service is going on, and we can't get it going because we can't get this settled. So they're going on and on and on. And finally the pastor said, "Fred, let's give it to Harry. Let's be honest, Fred, by this afternoon you're going to forget you won the award anyway." And the whole place cracked up, and he gave it to the other guy. But see, he had a relationship with him, and he could do it. You know, guys are guys. You know, I went to a prayer meeting the other night, 15 guys, you know, and we're just being guys. We called it an ESZ. No, EFZ. It was an estrogen-free zone. And the guys, you know, guys are guys. Guys are guys, just want to be men, you know, and you know, so we challenged one another, we prayed for each other, you know, we're slapping each other, holding each other's hands like a bunch of grizzly bears and giving hugs, but we're being men, we needed that, you know, makes sense? And so anyway, the relationships are so important. They say the first-time guest that has the most friends is more likely to stay in a church. So if we can get a first-time guest to connect with 2, 3, 4 people, man, I'll tell you what, there's a good chance that person's going to get connected there. And it's been proven that the more friends you have in a church, the longer you will stay in that congregation. So what do we want to do? Like the seals under the raft. We want to build community. We want to build love. Our front door greeters, making people feel loved and accepted. Our Roman greeters, our back door greeters, thanking people to come. You know, what are we doing about assimilate? You know what? It's what time did we start this session? 7:15. Okay, well it's been an hour. So should we do a 15-minute break and then maybe go a half an hour, or do you want to stop?
Probably, I think you keep going for a little while and just leave early, right? Because a lot of people have to work. They have to get up at 6 a.m.
Okay, so I'll tell you what then. It's 8:17. I'll get done by 8:40. Okay? Or pastor's taking everybody to Tony Horton's, Tommy Horton, Tim Horton's, and it's on him. All right? All right, 8:40, and we'll call it a day. All right? But the greeters are so important. The connections are so important. What do we do for assimilation? How do we get people assimilated into our churches? What can we do to give them value that they return? What is something that every person has a need? And that is prayer. That is prayer. So literally through our ministry, I don't have this with me, but we literally have a dissertation almost of the way that we greet first-time guests. All right? And it's kind of like, you know, hi, my name's Craig. I'm part of the Destiny Center here. And church, can we welcome our first-time honored guest here this morning? And man, the church stands, they clap, they make a big deal of it. You know, we sit down and I say something like, you know, you can see. Oh, first of all, we say something like, you know, we are so honored that you came here and worship today. We recognize you could have went anywhere, but you came here to worship with us. We thank you from the bottom of our heart. We have been praying for people just like you. You know, you can see by the way that we started our church service today that we are a church that believes in prayer. We have seen people divinely healed. We've seen the unemployed get jobs. We've seen shattered families be put back together. Whatever your need is, we have prayed for it, and we have seen God move. This morning, in your bulletin, we left a little information card with a spot for you to put a prayer need down. Okay? We want to pray for you, whatever your need is, no matter how big, no matter how small. Listen to this wording. We are committed to your success. We are committed to pray for you until God takes care of business. That's huge, right? And so when you talk like that, all of a sudden people are putting down prayer needs that they have. Now, as our ushers come up, just drop your basket in there. There's a place you put down your name, phone number. Why do we want your phone number? Because we're going to call you. Okay? You tell us the best time to call you. And we're going to stand with you in prayer again until we see God take care of the need that you have. We're committed to your success here at Destiny Christian Center. And I'll tell you what, when people find the commitment, the care, the love, man, they are just jotting down prayer needs, okay? So, there's also a spot, if you don't want us to call, check it off. You know, there was a church where there was a Muslim woman, and she was coming to this Christian church on the slide without her husband knowing about it. And of course, it could have been very dangerous for her to let him know. So anyway, then at the end of service, as people are out at the hospitality area, okay, again, we have our roaming, not Roman, but roaming greeters out there, our backdoor greeters. They all have prayer cards on them, empty prayer cards. So again, as a greeter, I'm kind of looking around again, and I go up to the guy and say, hey, my name's Craig. I don't think we ever met,
My name is Mike.
Oh, hey, Mike, how are you? You remind me of somebody else in Quebec that I know. Yeah. And, but anyway, so Mike, how'd you enjoy service?
That was great.
It was awesome, wasn't it? Hold on a minute, she's right here. Honey, yeah, this is my wife, with a tattoo of the battleship on her arm. Yeah, that's her. Come on over, honey. Yeah, Mike, this is my wife, Kathy. Yeah. Kathy used to be a mud wrestler. That's how we met. And but anyway, so we introduce you to her. Now I see the pastor go by. All right. No, this is really important. Pastor Dave, do you have 1 second, please? Yeah, what's going on? Pastor Dave, this is Mike. He just got out of jail. And, but anyway, so what we're doing, we're connecting him. So all kidding aside, he leaves. He's met 3 guys.
Oh, one girl.
And 1 girl, the mud wrestler, yeah, but she's more ripped than I am. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. But you see, so he now walks out, and he's met, no, seriously, it's like 3 people. The chance of him coming back is huge. So these people in the back are actually called introducers. So again, we just go up, on a serious note and say, hey, my name's Craig. I don't think we ever met before. What's your name?
Mike.
Hey, Mike, how are you? How'd you enjoy service?
That was pretty good.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, my wife and I, we've been coming here about 3 years. Hey, honey, you got a minute? Yeah, Mike, this is my wife, Kathy. Kathy, that's Mike, and then maybe, somebody else come by, and I'll say, hey, Jerry, you got a second? Jerry, this is Mike. Yeah, Mike lives over in Clarksboro. Yeah. And Jerry says, oh, yeah, Clarksboro. I go by there to work every day. Yeah, cool. And they'll say, hey, Pastor Dave, you got 1 second? And then he comes around and introduce you. And you walk out and you feel connected, dude. That's how we need to do that. Okay, introducers. The more people we get people connected to, the greater chance to return. And also I say to him, hey, Mike, let me ask you something. I'm going to tell you something. We've been so blessed since we've been coming here to the Destiny Center. Did you fill out one of the prayer cards? Yes. It's no big deal. I'm telling you, brother, honestly. Do you have a prayer need? Yeah. I'm going to tell you, hold on a minute. You know what? I got one right here. Here. Please consider filling it out. Just put it over there in the basket. I want to tell you something. Our prayer counselors, they are amazing. They will walk with you, whatever you're going through, until your need's taken care of, honestly. You know what? And this is announced from the church pulpit. I forgot this. But we also say, besides having someone call you on Tuesday nights, we have an entire prayer team of 50 people who will be praying for you every day for the next 30 days. How many people here like to have 50 people praying for you for the next 30 days? And again, people are just... And the whole prayer thing is great because we all have prayer needs. I have prayer needs right now. I'm sure everybody in here has a prayer need, right? And so the whole thing works. And then you get the introducers outside. They got prayer cards on them. They got another guy at the door. And of course, it takes people. It takes people. People are resources. Resources make things happen. All right? So that's a whole thing that we can do. And then what we do, we keep following up with these people. And they get connected to the church that way because basically they're won by love. Yeah. And I can show you how to set up a whole assimilation strategy on how to do it. Another thing we can talk about is invite campaign. I'm a big believer of invite campaign. Pastor, I have the cards. I have all the materials if you ever want to do this. So what it is, we get people to commit to invite one person to church a month for the next 12 months. One a month for the next 12 months. We have special invite cards made up. All right? They're really nice looking cards. Nothing corny. It's got to be sharp. All right? And so anyway, these people commit to invite one person a month. And then they fill out a card, an invite response card, and they turn it in at their convenience every month who they invited and whether they came or not. Why do we want their names if they didn't come? Or at least we can pray for them. All right? And so check this out. 89%, they say, of anyone that comes through your front door, they do so because they have a relationship with someone in your church. 89% of anyone that comes through here comes here because they know someone else that comes here. So what we want to do, if possible, is to invite warm contacts. Warm contacts are people who we know. It's about a 35% chance that a warm contact will say yes. If we invite 12 people and let's say we get 30 people to do this. 30 people, committed soldiers, SEAL Team 6 invite soldiers. And we get one person, okay, in 12 months, we've gotten 30 new people that way. If we get 2 out of 12, we just grew by 60 people. If we get 3 out of 12, if we get 25% come and get assimilated, okay, we've what, grown by? We need another building. Well, you're going to need another building real soon anyway. You know, or something's going to have to happen because you're getting real close. So anyway, invite campaigns are tremendous things to do. And the invite response card's a great thing. It puts people on their toes that, oh man, you know, let's see. Oh boy, it's the end of March. You know, I got it. Well, actually it'll be too late now because April's, what, in a couple of days or whatever? Right? Okay. And then every Sunday we talk about it. Okay. You know, you people that are involved in the invite campaign, thank you so much. We thank you for your commitment to the gospel, to the Destiny Center. Thank you so much. I suggest that pastors thank people that are involved in that once every 2 to 3 months on a personal basis, one of 3 ways. Either a phone call, a handwritten letter, or they leave a message or text them. From the pulpit, it is not sufficient. It's not personal enough. People always respond in direct proportion to how much they feel appreciated. If you feel appreciated, you're going to step up more. And it's not manipulation, but you know what? We owe people the appreciation when they do something. Like today, during that message I shared about the military guy. I said, sir, thank you for your service. And I meant that. I owed him that. You know? And he said, you're welcome, sir. You know? I see, I was in a town next to a military base. There must have been 5 or 6 guys in a quick burger joint. I thanked every one of them individually. Thank you so much for being there. I really appreciate you so much. God bless you. So in this case, like with the invite campaign, if I had 30 soldiers that were out committed to invite one person a month, every other month, I'd either be calling them, sending them a handwritten letter, or coming up to them in person on Sunday and saying, Mike, thanks, brother, for being on board here. I need you. Okay? Yeah. So that's a big deal. And you can get some serious church growth. I mean, think about it. If you had 40 people in the church commit to an invite campaign, and they each got 2 people a year to come and get assimilated, that's another 80 people on top of your 40 you just blew into. And now you're not looking at, 80 to, 60 to 80, whatever, getting ready to push 100. Now you're getting ready to push 200 all of a sudden. So, anyway, there's just a lot of things to look at there. Yeah? To whatever ministry. Well, you know what? The challenge with young, smaller, growing congregations is lack of manpower. And people get burned out. The first church I went to, it was a mega church of about 25 people. So I did hundreds of things. And the pastor, he needed help so bad. And so he would, I would offer for everything and he would use it. And although it wasn't healthy for me, because it burned me out. And I think it's just really a challenge. It really is a challenge. Maybe it's a challenge in what we choose to do, what we choose to get involved in as a church, as a whole, what you have to let go of. Maybe we need to get lean. Like right now through Christian Equippers, we're looking over our entire inventory. And we're looking to get lean. We know what products sell. We know what products haven't sold forever. We know which ones are outdated. Why are we still printing these? Why are we still doing the same thing? The definition of insanity, right? Yeah? Yeah, exactly. Okay, so it could be that. Even, where we're spending our time. I'd love some of the stuff that's going on here. I just think it's amazing what you have going on. I want to tap into some of it. I don't know how it'll be online or CDs or whatever. It's just awesome. The thing about the Father's heart coming up and the healing. These are all so relevant. These are really good things. And I'm not saying that because I'm sitting here. I would say that anyway. But lots of times churches, they're running ministries in the churches that are not bearing any fruit. Okay? And we continue to run them because we always ran them. And we had to be very sensitive because that's Brother Bill's baby. He's been running that now for 10 years. And we need to be empathetic to him. It's a big deal. Okay? And it is a big deal. So, yeah. And so that's his identity. And so it's really, we have to be really spirit-led, sensitive. This is the Spirit of God. And I get it. People are the resources to make things happen. How can we get things done? And boy, that's something really good to pray about. I think a good message to the church is always, we are a family. Take it from the pioneer days. The kids, they chopped wood, they did this. And, Pastor David talked about growing up on a farm. And there was chores to be done. And you know what? We're family. And we just, and you have to be so sensitive how you say things because people get so offended today. But man, please consider taking part in our family chores that we have here, whatever it is. What is your niche? You want to Windex the front doors, you want to straighten the chairs, pick up the bulletins or whatever, but we need your help. Some of the biggest challenges, I have been in large inner city churches with tons of people and there's no workers because there's such a huge portion of dysfunctional families in a massive way. We think we have dysfunction within our families. You go to the inner city and see what's going on. It's like a whole nother ball game where the young ladies dress like harlots. And the inner cities are just, this one church I went to, 2 people have been murdered within the very shadows of the church. Within 30 feet of the church, people have been either stabbed to death or shot to death. And the family is so dysfunctional, and the poor leadership there, they're doing everything they can to even keep mom and dad, hopefully, and the siblings coming to church on Sunday morning. We get situations where dad's pushing the meth, or heroin because he can't get a job, and the one son just got shot in school last week, and the problems are unbelievable. So we just really need to look at what we're doing, where our time is being spent. I want to end with this last story. There was a pastor who this church really wanted him to come and pastor. And he said, I'll come on one condition, that all we do is this and that. And they said, okay. And he had them all the board members or whatever, all had to sign a paper. And he carried that paper in his pocket all year. And they said, Pastor Mike, I think what we ought to do is do this. He goes, nope, we're sticking to the game plan. We're better off doing one thing well than doing 1,000 things terribly. And let's just try to sniff out God's will compared to man's good ideas. But you know what? God wants us all under that rubber raft, huddling up under each other because it's cold outside. And you guys can build a tremendous movement here. You really can. This is one of the finest, and I stand before the Lord on this. I get so excited about what's going on right here and what can happen. But it's going to take dedicated people, to the kingdom, to the leadership here, that we work together in unity. We don't let the evil one come in and divide us by offense. That we're mature enough to go to each other and say, you know what, Mike, did I do something to offend you last week? And you may say, yeah, Craig, I wasn't going to say anything, but, it just kind of hurt me the way you said that. And I said, brother, I was only teasing me, and will you please forgive me? And we let it go. And we get together and we stay tight and we stay linked arm in arm to build. That's right, for better, for worse, just like a marriage, But you guys, you guys just really take over Broussard. You get a good invite campaign going, get some things shucking and jiving. Maybe the owners of this building will let you do some painting up and freshening up around here. Get a couple nice pots of flowers every Sunday out front, having that outdoor greeter, having the roaming greeters. The guys out there in the hospitality area loving on people. Man, I'll tell you, you guys would work wonders. This church is the real deal. And I go to churches all the time, and, it's just refreshing being here, that's all. So I'm going to let you go. Any questions, concerns, comments, anything you want to fire at me? Any thoughts, comments, closing, Pastor?
No, I think we could go on for another couple hours and address other issues, but what you addressed was very good.
Yeah, I just addressed some first-time guest type things. Yeah. That's all. And just love it on people. You know, I go into churches, it's amazing. I'll go down the hall of a church, and they know that I'm not a regular guy here. And they'll just walk, they can't even look at me. So anyway, you know what? I better stop because I'll just keep rambling. But just love on the people that come. The number one reason they come back, because they need to feel loved and accepted. And listen, that young gal that was here today, man, I'll tell you, she's going through some deep waters for a young kid. And she said, you know what, I'm all by myself with 4 kids. And she got some serious physical stuff going on. Please love on her. Broke my heart with her today. Yeah, it really troubled me in my spirit. Yeah. So, amen.
Well, just the encouraging thing every week after the service, she says, boy, am I in the right place. Yeah, we pray for every week, but she says, boy, I'm in the right place. So thank you. Thank you, Craig. I just want to say, there's 2 or 3 people, like, if you still got a little bit of energy left in you, there's 2 or 3 people like prayer after the service. But I want to close. But first I want to say, like, I know there's 3 people online right now that they're watching in. And so I guess I'm addressing them also. But I'm addressing you because you took the time to be here.
Thank you.
Not because, like, we all love Destiny Church. Everybody says, oh, I love Destiny Church, I love Destiny Church. But you're here tonight because you actually care to see it grow. And it's good to love something, but it's better to love it and want to see it grow. So I want to just say thank you, especially to you people, Carol and Tony, like all of you in the room here. This is encouraging that you're here because you want to help us grow the church. And I know it's all our responsibility. We always think that way. It's the pastor's job. No, it's not. It's our job. So thank you. You're an encouragement to us tonight for being here. You want to grow this church. You want to grow Chattagate Church. That's good. You want to grow Ganawagi Church, obviously. So thank you. I just want to say that. So, Lord, I just thank you for the things you've taught tonight. I thank you for using Craig to be honest with us and look at these issues, to give us these great ideas. And I know everything he said is true. His heart is for us. He loves us. What a great friend. This church has a great friend in Craig, and we bless him for that. And so we just pray as we go our ways tonight, you will continue to give us insight, strategy, and an enlarged heart to touch the people of this region for your glory. In Jesus' name. Amen.